Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Um, and we have Anel Flores. She's an artist from San Antonio who will be joining us tonight. My name is Jerome Lades. I'm co-founder of Arttitude. The idea behind our live broadcast is to help queer and minority artists during this time of, the COVID-19 pandemic, as many artists have lost income due to canceled events or projects. So help our artists by donating now. You can go to our website at artitude.org, or you can text from your phone. You can text Artitude to 44321. So I'm going to go ahead now and just go ahead and introduce Anel. Anel, her areas of studies and production of literary fiction and visual art center around Chicana Latina literature, lesbianidad, sexuality, gender, race, border, diaspora, spirituality, body, blood, memory, and their connection to identity. Sorry about that. That was kind of.
Mhm.
She is an MFA in creative writing. She is currently in the process of completing her forthcoming book, Cortinas de Lluvia. It's a series of children's book and a graphic memoir titled Pintada de Rojo. Her teaching career includes 11 years, the public high school, college, and university, along with 4 years in arts administration and continuous community literary workshops. So, Anel, thank you for joining us this evening. It's always a pleasure. I think the last time I saw you was 2 years ago at the Mariconex show in San Antonio.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so I'll go ahead and let you go, and we can look at your work, your studio, and all those wonderful things that you have there with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jerome. Thank you, everyone at Artitude, and the artists that were part of the Mariconex exhibit. That was just amazing. It was beautiful to be in a show with such an array of artists, queer artists from all over, and including South Texas, which as an artist myself from South Texas, but living in San Antonio, I feel really. I always feel super happy and just about it when South Texas, like Brownsville, Mission, Far, Fredericksburg, McAllen, those artists are recognized because we tend to forget that amazing pocket of art and creativity. So thank you, Arttitude, for that, and Mariconex. My name is Anel Flores, and I've been an artist, a professional artist for 25 years. Um, it was something that I did to survive, being closeted, being a queer closeted person. Something that I didn't know how to tell. I didn't know how to talk about what I was feeling, which I think for many queer folks that is real. For many of us, and I started to I guess now, as an adult, I can look back and say I was intellectualizing my feelings by doodling, by drawing pictures, by figuring out what things were going to look like, how I wanted my life to look. And so what I started to do was draw and paint what I wanted my life to look like in the real world. I held that those images in me for many years, from maybe eighth grade until senior year. And when I began drawing, now that I look back at the 25 years, I can see my work. At the very beginning, it was silhouettes of bodies, no gender, no specific shape, never thick, never thin, just a body. Always, my older work was, my earlier work was very androgynous because I didn't want anyone to know what exactly I wanted to say. I didn't want them to know what my body felt like inside, who I wanted to love. And so as I progressed as an artist, I started to add more. My first solo exhibition was all silhouettes. That was at the Guadalupe Annex here in San Antonio. And it was called Woman Alive Exploding, which was kind of how I felt at the time. And after that exhibit, I exploded, started to draw more frontal figures, only women at that time, began with painting and drawing women, and painting them and writing about them. So I also decided to start writing. I had to figure out ways to live and tell that story. So I also started writing. One of my book that came out in 2012, Empanada, is something that began as, again, a poem with Sharon Bridgeforth. She was one of my mentors and helped me work on that work, and then continued on working through my lesbian poetry, fiction, narrative, through writing. So now I live in both worlds. I'm a storyteller, I believe that we know that our stories have been erased. We know that they've been eliminated from our history, our education, our textbooks, even our home. Our stories around the table have been taken away because of shame, the shame that our parents, for example, my parents, I speak for my family, um, has been imposed upon us, that Spanish or our life or life on the rancho or life as, who we are is shameful in contemporary and, well, in society, mainstream society. And because of that shame, people don't tell us their stories. Our mothers, our grandmothers, they were silenced because of that shame, because of language barriers as well. And I saw that right away in my grandmother, especially. And that really touched me. When my book came out, my dad asked me and my mom, why did you put your grandmother in this book about about being a lesbian? I mean, in the same page, you're like having sex with a woman, you're talking about how much you love your grandmother. And I remember telling them, it was when my book came out, I said, did you ever look in her eyes? Did you ever look into her eyes and ask her what she was thinking? What were her stories? And they really had no answer. They didn't know who she fell in love with. They didn't know those intimate moments. They didn't know that she cried alone in the kitchen. And because I was very sensitive to my grandmother, my favorite person in the universe, I did know that. And I wrote a book. I wrote a book to tell stories of women, to tell stories of silenced voices. And I paint for the same reason. I very much focus on now. I focus much on imagery of gender non-binary work, gender queer. I look at the image of Ometeo a lot, which is a deity, an Aztec deity, is both male and female, both black and white, both here and there, very fused with the idea of Nepantla as well. I study Ansalua and look at this image, look at many images of my ancestors and also indigenous traditions. I believe in that art and storytelling and writing and painting and dancing and music. I believe that it is the fabric of being able to document history, being able to document what is happening. And it is the only thing, in my opinion. And if you even look, I mean, if you look at the, if you look at history, it is the artists that created the change. It is the artists that made the posters. It is the artists who march. It is the artists who protest. It is the artists and the queer folks who did that work as well. And so I really hold on to the spirits of all those who we've lost and who've done this work for us. And I always invite them to my space. This is my space here where you are. This is Anel Flores Studio. This is where I do my work and my healing, where I heal myself when I create my work, and where I create work that also hopefully is able to provide a sense of gender non-binary folks, of trans folks, of queer folks. I'm always looking. That is my goal in every piece. And I'll start with something small that I do. Well, not small, but size-wise. I make jewelry as well. So I make silver jewelry in honor of my grandmother. On Empanada, there's an image here of lace. This lace was a piece of lace that my grandmother saved from a grocery store fire. They used to have a 5 and dime store that burned down. And that 5 and dime store, when it burned down, she was able to save samples of lace that she was going to order again to sell in that store. This was our family business. And what was saved was little pieces of lace in a black receipt box, a fireproof box. So what I've done is I've saved the lace. I used it on my book. I also used this very tiny piece of lace, which you can see here, and I imprint it in my work. And lace was originally historically made by women, sewn by women's hands. It's a rigorous job to make lace. And in my work, I imprint it. See, like, for example, in this piece, you can see the lace in that work. And it's to talk about the story of women's work, to talk about the work that we put into everything we do. And I actually have some magic wands that I make also with the lace, and they are all individual, Every single piece of my work is individualized, so that everyone can have a piece of art and they can know that feeling and feel it with their own energy. So I definitely do that. I bless all my work. I invite my ancestors to my space before I create work. I light kopal. I pray, um, and I put very good intentions in all of my work. My current piece right now that I'm working on in the studio is this piece back here, and this is an oil painting of, and I haven't completed it. So you're the only you and me and my wife are the only people that have seen this work in progress. This is a base paint, so I've done like maybe 6 or 7 layers on it. It's all oil. I started, I think, the very beginning it was lavender. I added some fuchsias, I added some reds, I added the golds, and it has to dry. As an oil painter, you have to wait a couple days in between color layer, and it's really beautiful. It gives me the opportunity to do other things in the middle of those days, and to also just really contemplate what energy I want to put in. The other thing that I'm working on, and I'm going to walk you around the studio a little bit. I'm going to look at the time. I'm going to walk you around a bit with me so you can see. I'm also working on my graphic memoir. So this is some work. Hopefully you won't get dizzy as I walk around. This is some work that I'm doing for my graphic memoir. These pieces here were exhibited at the McNay this past summer in the Trans-American exhibit. The memoir work is all based on my being a queer person, being, coming of age as a queer artist, as a queer Latina, as a queer Chicana. And so all of this work you can also find a lot on my website, and on my Instagram and on my Facebook, which you can follow there. And then I have more pieces here in my studio. This is a piece that I worked on, a character in my new book that I'm currently working on called Cortinas de Lluvia. I have a character called, their name is Tony. And Tony is a barber, a butch barber. And in this particular time of their life, they are working out their identity. They're working out their identity as a trans person, or they're trying to kind of figure out where they are, and they're in that moment in their life where they're figuring out who they are. So I've drawn Tony here and created this limited edition print. Another piece that I have here called El Mundo Zurdo, and this is a chalk pastel piece that documents images of women in their bodies as queer bodies. I have an elder, a more contemporary person, a spirit guide, and also the animal spirit, all in relations, and all in community and working together. I've entwined the serpent here around El Mundo Zurdo as a symbol of rebirth, shedding skin, and they're all looking at each other in different ways and also connected, telling stories to each other. The ancestor here is telling stories to today's woman, telling the story. This is the image of the storyteller, of the story being told in the Aztec codices. This piece here is called Ometeo. Another one of my pieces where I'm looking at gender, looking at body. In this piece, I have the image of Ometeo here, the deity, which again I mentioned was both male and female. And I've specifically separated this person's head with their body in that way that it creates a relationship around what we feel sometimes, what we're feeling here versus what we're feeling here and in our gut. I know that as a genderqueer person, what I show here is not always what I'm feeling in my body. That's what my life has been for many years, and it is for many of us. And so that's why here I specifically wanted to create that relationship with this person and how they feel about their identity as Ometeo. This is a piece called Basta. This is La Virgen de Guadalupe, an image that I am very close to, the Virgen de Guadalupe, just growing up as a Chicana person. But in Basta, she's saying, like, yeah, no more. Like, stop asking me to do your work, do your own work. I think that for me and a lot of Chicanas or Chicanx folks, the Virgen is everywhere. I mean, I was just at HEB today with my mask on, and I heard a woman ask for the jumbo Virgen de Guadalupe candle. So it's like it's a real thing. It's very, very, very close to my heart, and so I do paint La Virgen a lot. I'm very intentional about not painting her submissive, looking down, or quieted, or silenced, and always bold and always moving forward. So that's another one. I have this series of 4 paintings here. Gloria Ansaldúa, a Chicana scholar who wrote Borderlands and who has unveiled many incredible theories about Nepantla, conocimiento, and looking at lineage and identity and gender and our animal spirits and ancestors together. The second painting is Tatiana de la Tierra, a queer poet who passed away of cancer and who was so bold with her body, with her stories. So I'm documenting them here as these are spirits who have passed away. So I'm using the sky colors there and the red as love, life, passion. And then Frida, who also is genderqueer many, many times, way ahead of her time, like many. And Chavela Vargas, also a queer musician. And so I'm documenting their work. Again, I do really believe that art is historical documentation. I believe that as we create this imagery, I'm hopefully creating documentation for history. And that's what I feel is my calling as an artist. There are many different callings. One, documentation. One, healing. And I'm trying to meet them all as much as I can. And that's it's what I'm passionate about. And these works these are both Gloria Ansaldúa. This is her as a spirit guide. And this is called Sinvergüenza. This is the Sinvergüenza plant here. This is the image, this is the imagery for goddess of the rivers and streams. So it's her at the side of the Rio Grande or the Rio Bravo, which is our border between Texas and the US. This is another Ansaldúa piece that I did for a fundraiser using all the sacred foods of the Aztecs here with Ansaldúa there. And I have a lot more work that is not necessarily hanging, but I have it everywhere in different places that I can show you. I also make lots of stickers, so I make products out of my work. I have enamel pins, stickers, all kinds of different things with my artwork on it. And then, of course, my book. And that's a little bit more of my studio. And then I have my jewelry as well, which is here. I don't know if you can see some of that, but it's also on my website as well. And some t-shirts, Resistencia t-shirts. The Resistencia image I created, it's my wife. I was wanting to create an image of a woman saying Resistencia. We have a lot of work that says resist, resist, which is great. And I'm about that, but I wanted Resistencia. So I thought, who is the strongest, most powerful Mexicana I know? And well, it's my wife. So I decided to go ahead and do a drawing of her and then put her on a t-shirt and in different places. So I put her on a sticker and a t-shirt. And so I have that also on the website. And yeah, any questions? Or I could keep going for days.
I have a question, Anel. You talked about Gloria Ansaldúa, and I know just from knowing you that she is a very inspirational queer woman. Can you talk more about her and how she has how you have connected her words with your art?
Right, absolutely. Well, so Gloria Ansaldúa, she's from South Texas. She's from the border. She's from, oh my gosh, I don't want to get it wrong, so I won't tell you. It starts with an H, but I'm losing it for a second. But she's from South Texas. She and her family is still there. She late or early 80s went to California, studied. She did a lot of theoretical work around and poetry, wrote poetry, and created theory around who we are on the border, right? And that's a generic way, like a tiny little speck. But she continues in her book Borderlands, and in many of her books, but specifically at the very beginning in Borderlands, she talks about how when you live on the border, you live in a space called Nepantla. You live in this space that is neither here nor there. You're floating, right? And I'm doing it not exact justice. You have to read her work. But she talks about that we kind of float. We have to survive. She talks about surviving, existing, and living, not just on the border, but in two bodies, right? So even as a queer person, where we, for example, have to live a straight life and then a gay life, right? Growing up or in the workplace or outside. She does a lot of work around our animal spirits, what are our ancestors. She talks about blood memory, how a lot of our suffering isn't ours, but it belongs to our ancestors. Um, the thing that's so pivotal about Ansalua isn't only the work that she wrote, but it is also in the way that she wrote it. So as an artist myself and a writer, she was also an artist and a writer. And in Borderlands, if you look at her text, you'll see that it's an academic text. They study it in PhD programs all over the world, in Paris, France, Spain, I mean, everywhere. And she writes, her work, though, isn't written in essay form. She includes poetry, song, essay, art, imagery, drawings, recipes, all to create this work. And she does it as an out queer woman. She did it her whole life as an out queer Chicana person from South Texas. She never shied away from that. She never hid herself or her identity. And she created books that she made anthologies and organized anthologies early when people weren't doing that work. She broke into the feminist movement as a brown woman with groups of Black and brown women and queer folks. And so that work is so inspiring to me because it helps me, it makes me know, this work I must do, right? If Ansalua did it at that time, right? If so many other folks like Ansalua, Tatiana, Frida, right? I mean, that's a cliche name, but still, if they did that work, I need to do this work. We're still in a time of urgency. And so that work feeds me as just in my action, but in my content, it pushes me to dig, to peel the layers. I don't want to create, commercial art. I want work that I know I've peeled the layers from, right? And I'm healing every time I create my work. And when I present my work, I live the trigger again. It hurts again, but I heal again. And I've been told by people who see my work and read my work the same thing, that it does that work. And that's what Ansalua did for me. So I feel like I know that that's what I want to be able to try to do.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm familiar with your work only because I've known you for several years. But during this time, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, how has this affected how you work, or how is this, or just tell us how this has affected you at this point?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's been amazing. I'll be a little personal about it. My wife is a curandera, Erika. Her name is Erika Casasola, and she is an amazing curandera. She does beautiful work, but she also has a full-time job, right? Like a day job, which many artists, healers have. They have a day job and then they do their work while they're sleeping, practically, right? So during this time, she has been furloughed, and however, I mean, there's many ways people are looking at it, right? But we have now joined. We've always worked together, right? We both know we're healers with different mediums. But this time she's actually moved her work in this studio, which is now ours. It's always been our studio, but she's practicing here, which has been really beautiful. I'm trying to we're looking at the beautiful things that have been birthed by this time. She's been home now with us, me and the dogs, and our daughter now is home from college. For 3 weeks, and she's been doing her healing and her sessions and her platicas in this room on the computer. And so I've been creating my art with her. And even though we're always together, it's really influencing my work in another way. And so I feel like we're getting more powerful, like love, but also in healing and in what we hope to be able to share. So that's what it's done for us personally. Of course, we're staying home. I miss my mother terribly and my father, and I see them, but I can't hug them or any of that, and that's been sad. Terrified. I'm worried that today they unveiled that those who are married to somebody without a social security number do not get the stimulus check. So I heard that today, and I just every day it's like another little racist, horrible, homophobic, terrible thing that is being unleashed right by the powers that be. And I'm scared. I really am scared. As an artist, I know I want to continue to push, and I'm thinking of ways to prepare for a huge uprising, hopefully by our community, that we don't let things happen. I'm afraid that we're all gonna get sick again, that because we're opening everything up because we need to save the economy, and I'm afraid he's planning that so we can all get sick, we can have another wave, and he can maybe declare martial law, and we won't have an election. Like, that's what I'm thinking as an artist. So that's influencing my work, and I might write about it or paint about it or draw about it. And but I am saying on this platform to everybody that's hopefully listening, do the work, don't go out, be safe, be careful. It's not worth your life. It's not worth all of our lives to continue to be out there. We need to stay home right now. It's a very important time. I believe that.
Thank you, Anel. I do want to remind everyone that has just joined us or joined us about halfway through. Anel and I, we met several years ago. Arttitude has this amazing program called Mariconex. And what we do is we are a show that gives a platform for Chicano or Latinx queer artists. We're going in our third year for this, and the last 2 years, Anel has been a part of this. So our first show, the first time I met Anel was in San Antonio 2 summers ago, um, and the poem that you recited at that time
Mm.
was very moving, and even your artwork. We had several pieces. The one in the very back, the Guatemoc, is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
That was one.
Oh, Mateo.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
that was one of the main pieces that we had, and then now that we're at the Latino Cultural Center in Dallas, you gave us more of your recent work that we projected onto the wall, which was a beautiful piece as well. Um, and the reason why we're doing these, well, let me kind of explain Arttitude for some people who are new. Arttitude, what we are, we're a nonprofit here located in Dallas, and what we do, we support and we create platforms for queer artists and minority artists. And the reason why we're doing these live broadcasts is because for some artists, um, a lot of their wages have been because of canceled events or closed venues, they've not been able to show their work or sell their work in traditional ways that we had before the virus. So what we're doing is we're helping out. And so with these live broadcasts. So if you can go to our website at artitude.org or text Arttitude to 44321 and donate. So far we've raised about $400 for our artists. It's not a lot, but it's something. So we're trying to do that. But at the same time, we're also wanting the artists to share their work with us too, and in ways that we it's a little bit more personal. Sometimes in their studio or their personal spaces where they create their work. So, um, do you have any final words, Anel?
Um, I guess the other thing, yeah, shop from artists. Go to their websites. I mean, I could tell you to go to mine because yes, I want you to. However, there are so many artists out there. Just find them. If you have $5, $10, if you can, donate to Arttitude. If you can, buy art. If you can, share for free. Share Arttitude's posts. Share the artist posts. Share. We really do need your help. We do survive off of those weekends. We work Thursday nights at fairs, Saturdays, Sundays. We're always trying to sell our work out of our trunk, out of everything, and right now we're not able to do that. So if you really could share and donate to Arttitude and support this amazing work, and just thank you. Be safe out there, please. We want to have a really good, huge Mariconex party and Arttitude party soon together where we can all hug and be like our gayest, queerest, most glittery selves. And so I'm ready for that soon.
And everyone who's listening, I just posted Anel's website, so you can click on it. go visit her website, look at her work. Anel is amazing. Um, she's even more amazing in person. So when we have art shows, when everything opens up and it's everything safe, come out to these shows. And if you're in San Antonio, she has a show. Go meet her and go see her work.
Yes, please.
So again, thank you everyone. Visit our website at artitude.org or text Arttitude to 44321. So have a good evening, everyone. Thank you, Anel. It was great chatting with you and seeing
Good
you in
chatting with
studio.
you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
all right, bye bye.